At the end of the last video, I talked about making these patches to order for people that have got rust along the bottom of their doors, because them formers were quite successful. I really got the correct form of the bottom of the door. Then a couple of days later, a guy contacted me and he was inquiring about this step on here, and he sent me a picture where it's rusty all the way along here. That's where the water lays underneath the strip here. Now I can't use them formers exactly the same because the form is different. This is more of a right angle on here, but I am going to experiment with those formers and see if I can reproduce this. I'm Steve and welcome to my channel. I haven't got any 20 gauge long enough to do the whole length of that door. When I measured the actual from radius to radius, it's actually 2 foot 60 centimeters. But what I did find was this piece of Dexin sheeting, and that was left over when I put up all this shelving 20 years ago. It's all buckled and horrible. But as you just seen, I prepared it all right, and it's still buckled along here. Now, when I took the paint off, I mic'd it up, and it mics up at exactly 1 mil. Now, I'm sure you can buy 1 mil stock. So if this comes out okay, I will buy some 1 mil stock to make some of these patches. Now all I've done is I've put some packing under here to lift this one up, so that means there's less of a gap here. It's about a thickness of the material there. I don't know if you remember in the last video there was quite a big gap there, and that enabled it to make the angle. Well, on this one we don't want that angle, we want a tighter fit around here. So that's the only difference. Now I have tried it and that was the result. So it's easy to do a small bit like this, but obviously a lot more difficult to do a long bit like this. So that is what I'm going to attempt to do now. Another little tip when doing something like this is to put some oil all the way along here, and that makes it easier. The oil makes it easier to form it. On both sides. Oh, I'm earning my money here. Maybe it wasn't such a good idea. What have I started? Yesterday I went out on my bike and built up the muscles in my legs. Today I'm doing this and building up the muscles in my arms. This is good stuff. Gorilla Glue. I usually don't get on with super glue, but this Gorilla Glue, it's a gel, is the best super glue I've ever used actually. It's very good. So what I'm doing is I'm actually super gluing the jaws to the vise. because I can't get the screws in from this side because it's impossible to drill the holes through there. So it was off camera all of a sudden, this jaw just popped out for some reason. So let's try it again. Put that on like that, and then let's go like that, and then just push it down with this. 15 minutes later, and it's nice and solid, not pushing too hard, but it's nice and solid. So I'll attempt to do this again. Goes that way like that. Alright, let's go and have a look. Right, so what I need to do is bend this radius, and then I need another 90 degrees bend here. So I don't know how I'm going to do that evenly all the way along, because obviously the dimension from this outside radius to this inside radius has to be identical all the way along. So here's the test piece that I made earlier. Now that fits nicely on the door, and that is the correct form that I need to reproduce. So I need to bend it right there. So the dimension from the middle of this radius to the middle of this radius, so when I put that vernier in there like that, is 9.6, and when I measure this one, it's about the same. So I need to scribe a line all the way along that patch. That looks the same. Now I've measured the distance on this patch from that face to the outside face, and it's within 1/10 of a millimetre all the way along. So I think the best thing to do is to set my vernier to that line that I've just scribed there, and then I check the other side. It's about the same. So now I'm going to use the vernier to scribe all the way along. Oops. So what I've found is that if I put a 1mm bit of shim, this plastic shim is 1mm, I've stuck that to the bottom here, then that lines up this edge, this front edge, with the scribed line. So what I'm doing is I'm just resting that in there, making sure it's on the line, and then I've radiused this off, and I'm just bending it over like that. Just doing it a bit at a time. I've tried to get this radius on here to get it the same all the way along, and I'm not having any luck with it. It's all over the place. I think you need an English wheel really to go like that. So I'm going to order some 20 gauge, which is slightly thinner than this, and make another one and see if that will come out better than this one. So while I'm waiting for the 20 gauge steel to be delivered, I thought I would make a profile gauge for something to work to. So I'll roughly cut that out, and then I filed it. I spent a couple of hours filing it and bluing it, and then just filing where the blue has been rubbed off by doing this. And so I've got fairly good coverage all the way around there, and then when I shine it, when I look down to look for light, it's okay. Now there is one problem with this. If I put it in another position, this one is not too bad. There are differences on the width here, but when I put it on the driver's side, it's slightly different. And when I put it on a rear door, it's nothing like it. It's completely different on a rear door. Don't know whether I'm going to make another one of these for the rear door. I don't know. And I made it out of aluminium because it's easy to work with. It's easy to file aluminium. You know, you shouldn't make a gauge out of aluminium, because if I go like that, it's going to wear it out. But that's not going to get worn out because I'm not using it every day. Well, you won't believe the trouble I had getting some 20 gauge steel. That's 0.9 in millimeters. And I finally got a sheet of 20 gauge after being let down several times. So now I've finished making these 4 patches. The rear patches are, I think, about 25mm longer. So the rear doors are a little bit wider than the front doors. And I had much more success with this radius by using this as a dolly, as you just seen in the vise. And the gauge I used, that was very useful. I couldn't get the radius exactly to this gauge. It was very difficult. But what I did find was that all 4 doors on my car are slightly different. So even if I get all these exactly to this gauge, it still won't be correct. It varies along the length on all the four doors. So when that is eventually welded on, it will have to be blended in with filler. You have to, because there's no way that that can be correct for all the doors. And I also found I used these 2 hammers. Now this is rubber, but it's quite a dense, heavy rubber, and I flattened this off on the linisher, and I found this is heavier, and I was able to do it much better with this long dolly. I also used this. It did help a little bit, but I found because this is heavier, it was easy. It took a long time to actually do each one. Probably took half an hour for each one, or maybe more. It took a long time to do it, but eventually I got it so that gauge, it's not spot on, but I couldn't get rid of the gap here because I couldn't get in with the hammer, with the mallet, to actually get the radius to start from that point, so that will have to be blended in by hand. So I've completed what I set out to do, to make 4 of these. So that's it, that's the end of this video. Thank you for watching and hope to see you next time.